Cop choked black woman in mall. Seconds later, federal agents surrounded him. The food court smelled of cinnamon pretzels and panic. Aisha Coleman, 34, single mother, night shifter nurse, stood frozen between a spilled orange smoothie and a teenage security guard who looked like he wanted to disappear into the tiled floor. The cop's forearm was already locked around her throat from behind. Not tight enough to kill. Just tight enough to humiliate. Just tight enough to remind everyone watching exactly who held the power in this brightly lit, Christmas-decorated hellscape. "Stop resisting," the officer growled into her ear, even though she hadn't moved since he first grabbed her. Aisha's hands were up. Palms open, fingers splayed, the universal signal she'd taught her 12-year-old son to use if police ever stopped him on his bike. Her tote bag lay on the ground, contents scattered. Stethoscope, half-eaten protein bar, pharmacy receipt for her mother's blood pressure medicine, a folded drawing of a dragon her son had made in art class. The crowd had formed a loose semicircle. Phones were out. No one spoke. Officer Travis Boone, 31, 6'2", 2 years out of the academy, had been having a bad day since breakfast. His wife had served him divorce papers at 6:47 a.m. His sergeant had written him up for a late report the night before. And now this woman, black, wearing faded teal scrubs under a gray hoodie, hair pulled into a neat puff, had dared to question why he was yelling at a group of teenagers who'd done nothing but laugh too loud near the escalators. She'd said, calmly, "Sir, they're just kids. Maybe lower your voice a little." That was the spark. Boone had spun, grabbed her arm, twisted it behind her back, then, when she instinctively tried to turn her head to breathe, slid his forearm across her windpipe and lifted. Now he leaned in close enough that she could smell his spearmint gum. "You think you can tell me how to do my job?" he hissed. Aisha didn't answer. She couldn't. Her airway was compressed just enough that each breath sounded like a small, wet whistle. A teenage girl in a puffy jacket started crying. An older white woman clutched her shopping bags and whispered, "This isn't right." Boone didn't hear them. He was too busy feeling the righteous burn in his chest, the one that said, "Finally, someone is listening." Then the music changed. Not the mall Christmas playlist. The ambient soundscape of the entire atrium shifted in a single heartbeat. Footsteps. Too many. Too synchronized. Boone looked up. 4 men in plain dark jackets moved through the crowd like water parting. No badges visible. No shouted commands. Just quiet, purposeful strides. Behind them, 2 more emerged from the direction of the pretzel stand. Another pair stepped off the escalator, hands resting lightly on hips near concealed holsters. Boone's grip loosened a fraction. Not because he wanted to. Because something cold had just crawled up the back of his neck. One of the men, early 40s, short salt and pepper beard, calm brown eyes, stopped 3 feet away. "Officer Boone," he said. Not loud, not angry, just certain. "Release her, now." Boone blinked. "Who the hell are you?" The man didn't answer. He simply lifted his left hand, palm out, and let the jacket fall open just enough for Boone to see the badge clipped inside. 3 gold stars arranged in a triangle, FBI Special Agent in Charge. The letters beneath it were small but unmistakable. Protective Operations Division. Boone's brain stalled. The man took one more step. "I said release her." Boone's arm dropped like it had been cut. Aisha stumbled forward, coughing, hands at her throat. The teenage security guard caught her elbow before she hit the floor. The crowd exhaled, collectively. The lead agent didn't look at Aisha yet. He kept his eyes on Boone. "You have exactly 10 seconds to explain why you just placed a federal protectee in a vascular restraint in the middle of a public mall." Boone's mouth opened, closed. "A what? Federal protectee?" the agent repeated, slower. "As in, someone under active U.S. Secret Service and FBI Joint Protective Detail." He finally glanced at Aisha, who was still catching her breath, one hand braced on the security guard's arm. Then he said the words that turned the blood in Boone's face to ice. "She's scheduled to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee in 9 days regarding systemic bias in use of force incidents. She's been under 24/7 protection since the death threats started 3 months ago." Boone's knees almost gave out. The agent continued, voice flat. You just assaulted the key witness in the largest civil rights investigation into law enforcement practices in 20 years. In front of 63 cell phones. Boone looked around. Every phone was still recording. He looked down at Aisha. She was watching him now. Eyes clear, breathing steadier, but not angry. Not yet. She looked tired. The same bone-deep tiredness he'd seen in his own mirror that morning. She spoke for the first time since the chokehold began. Her voice was soft, hoarse, but perfectly audible. I wasn't trying to disrespect you, officer. I was trying to de-escalate. For those kids. Boone's throat worked. No sound came out. One of the other agents stepped forward, pulled out flex cuffs, and looked at the SAC. The SAC shook his head once. Not yet. He turned back to Boone. You're going to remove your duty weapon, slowly, and hand it to me. Then you're going to sit on that bench over there and wait for your department's internal affairs and your union representative. They're already en route. Boone obeyed. His hands shook so badly he almost dropped the Glock. When he finally sat, head in his hands, the SAC crouched in front of Aisha. You okay? He asked quietly. She nodded. I've had worse. He gave her the smallest, most professional smile. I know. I've read the file. Then he stood and looked at the crowd, still filming, still silent. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, loud enough to carry, this incident is under federal investigation. Anyone who wishes to provide a statement or video footage, my team will be collecting contact information at the main entrance for the next hour. Thank you for your patience. He turned to Aisha again. Ms. Coleman, we're getting you out of here. There's a secure vehicle at the loading dock. Your mother and son are already safe at the secondary residence. We'll take you there now. Aisha looked back at Boone. He was staring at the floor, shoulders rounded, face gray. She took 2 steps toward him. Every agent tensed. She stopped a foot away. Boone looked up, eyes red. Aisha spoke so quietly only he and the nearest agent could hear. I don't want your badge. I don't want your job. I want you to remember this feeling, the moment you realized you might have ended someone's life over nothing. I want you to carry that into every future stop you ever make. She paused. And I want you to choose differently next time. Boone's jaw trembled. A single tear tracked down his cheek and fell onto the polished tile. Aisha looked at him a moment longer. Then she turned, picked up her scattered tote, tucked her son's dragon drawing safely inside, and walked toward the agents waiting by the service corridor. The crowd parted for her. No one cheered. No one booed. They just watched a woman in teal scrubs walk away from the man who'd tried to silence her, and toward the life she still intended to live, fully and loudly. Behind her, Officer Travis Boone sat alone on the bench, surrounded by flashing holiday lights and the sound of his own ragged breathing. For the first time in his life, the uniform felt heavier than the gun. And for the first time, he wondered if he was strong enough to carry it the way it was meant to be carried. Aisha didn't look back. She didn't need to. She'd already won the only fight that mattered.